Alright, hello everyone, it's your friend Brad, and I'm in the awesome town of Encinitas, and one of my favorite places. Got some bad news. I found out that a friend of mine, someone who I talk to almost every day over by that tree over there, or on the front side of the park, over here, the very front, his name was Tony, and I just found out his name was Tony White. And Tony was an older guy, man. He must have been 60, 65. He could have been even 70. But anyway, he was from Pennsylvania, Philly, or Pittsburgh. And man, he never bothered nobody. He just smoked his cigarettes. He liked to be left alone a lot. But he'd listen to you for as long as he could. And then he'd want to read his paper. And he'd give you the hint that he wanted to be left alone and sleep. You know, he liked to take his naps. You know, here in the park, 6 hours a day probably. But anyway, Tony was really well liked, and I found out that he got hit by a train. I don't know exactly what happened that day. They said Tony was maybe dropped his coffee cup. I don't know, but I know one thing: Tony was well read on all subjects. Loved to read his paper. The guy was intelligent, and man, was he a good listener. You know, and that's one thing across the country that you don't really get to see a lot. People, you know, like to talk, and myself included. They don't always like to listen. And Tony was a good listener. And his friend Margerite, who used to come and visit him in the park, and I talked to her a few times. Unfortunately, she was a victim of depression, and she took her own life. And I just want to say goodbye to Tony and to Marguerite, and you're missed. Tony, so many people here in the park liked you, and they miss you a lot. And I'm just really sad to hear that you're gone. And to Tony's family and to the people that he cared about, I know he said he didn't have much of anybody left in this world, but I just want to say, Tony, you were remembered and you were cared about, and I wish you were here so I could tell you of my latest adventures. So rest in peace, Tony White.